What's one piece of career advice you wish someone gave you when you first started out in the industry?
I guess not to carry too much of the weight on my own shoulders. I tend to look at myself as the only saving grace or the only place to find the information, but I am quite good at asking questions and asking people who are going to know the answers to those questions or where to find the right answers. But when I first started out, I think I thought I should have, I don't know, I just think I thought I should know everything before, the 4 years down the line where actually I feel a lot more comfortable in myself and no one knows everything. And it's always good to ask a fellow colleague. But yeah, I think put less stress on my own self. I did a lot of that.
So when you were first starting out, was this in recruitment? Just paint the picture.
In the games industry, yeah. That's kind of where I felt the most pressure, I'd say. Not due to anyone else. Literally my own self put in that because I wanted to do so well. I put quite a lot of ownership on that. And it's hard because I don't think it was necessarily the worst thing because it made me kind of strive harder to do better. But I think probably, I could have done that without, feeling as stressed or pressured as I made myself feel because no one else was making me feel like that. I think in recruitment in general, it's a different kettle of fish depending on where you're working. I've done care and I've done motor trade, completely different, right? But I think just specifically talking games industry, kind of less taking on all of that ownership of things when I can ask questions and seek help sometimes.
So when you're saying seek help, is it when you were first starting out, you were trying to figure it out on your own, delaying that time to ask that question?
Yeah, I think so. I think there were times where I thought, okay, I should know this. And even though my line manager and my colleagues are really sound and there was no reason for me to think, oh my God. And I did ask them a million questions, don't get me wrong. But there were probably times where I used to think, right, okay, if I need to find this myself. And it kind of was a good thing and a bad thing because I then learned how to find a lot myself. But I think there were probably times when I could have just taken kind of that more extra level of stress off my own shoulders and asked the question initially rather than just kind of thinking I have to know everything, I have to find this out, I have to know so-and-so who knows so-and-so who knows so-and-so, because the games industry is a bit like that. And obviously I didn't have those connections yet. So I think there were times where I probably could have sought support maybe a little more than because I just wanted to impress.
I was exactly the same. I was Mr. asking questions all the time, and then I naturally fell into the place if I can Google it, okay, I won't answer that. So always have that as step one. If it's something like industry knowledge, I could in theory scour LinkedIn and find that information, but no, we don't do that.
Someone's going to probably know a lot more than what the knowledge on the internet says as well. And I think that's what I found, when I have asked those questions. Hey, I know a surface level about this thing, but this person over here who's been in the industry 8, 10 years, 30 years, might know a lot more than was on the internet.
Could you share a pivotal moment and how that affected you and possibly the lessons that came from it?
Yeah, a pivotal moment in my personal career in games. When I started out initially, I supported 2 studios, my own studio, Electric Square, and Studio Gobo, and we had more of a centralized team. So there were 3 of us in the team together, and as we got bigger, we realized obviously we needed to have that separate team for talent acquisition and business development because we just got big. And we were looking at the same sort of IP, and it made sense, for people who were interviewing, because it became a little bit confusing when we were talking about both studios to people. So we obviously separated off, and then there was also a need for more business development, and then it left kind of me on a little island at one point where I was like, my team have got 2 kind of new roles now because we've got obviously Dean over at Gobo, he's fantastic, and my boss Guy who does the biz dev, and it was just me kind of looking after all the recruitment and talent acquisition at Electric Square. And I kind of then was like, oh wow, this is cool, but a lot, because I was still quite fresh, and I think that was the pivotal moment where I was like, okay, I can do this. I can manage and head up this team, which was just me at the time. And obviously now I have my team, which are fantastic. But I think that was the pivotal moment for me, because I was like, right, I haven't got my security blanket of my crew anymore. And I've got to figure this out. And I want to do this well. And, you know, and then that kind of gave me that progression route to be able to show my directors and my line manager that I could do it. And, I did a lot of, community support with schools and universities. And, you know, alongside that, a lot of non-for-profit companies that we work with who are great for diversity and inclusion initiatives. I've kind of forward-fronted a lot of that alongside hiring a lot of people. And I just kind of wanted to show what I was able to do. And I think that for me was my biggest, like, proudest pivotal moment in my career, because I did do it. And I didn't expect to be in that position and do it, if I'm honest. I didn't really realize my own, like, not limitations, because there wasn't any. I could do it. But I think until you're there and sat in that position where you're like, well, this is a big opportunity right here, then you don't really kind of see it coming until it's there and you're like, wow, yeah, I'm going to take this ball by the horns.
Yeah.
So that would be the one.
You were put in a position where you could, like, realize your potential, I feel. And
yeah. And see what my studio could do as well. Like, I guess, you know, we were in a position for growth as well. And in the time that I've been with, you know, Electric Square, we've doubled in size. We've quadrupled in studios. And it's definitely when going to the, like, Christmas do alone, just in the Brighton, with the Brighton team, just looking around and, like, taking it in. That was a big pivotal moment as well, when you're like, whoa, we've come really far. And I feel like I've had a hand in that to a point. Obviously, there's been a lot of people that do support what I do, but just to kind of take that all in was, you know, being able to have been offered that opportunity to look after this team by my directors and have that support and trust, that was huge. And to look around and to see what, because of their actions and because of their support, what that could do was pretty epic. I was just like, I feel all right about this.
yeah.
But yeah.
I want more people to have these epic moments. So, and I think we brushed over as to, oh yeah, and I did it. So I want to ask a little bit on the how. So just tactically speaking, like, why do you think you were able to grow so large? And from my understanding, it was just you for a big part of that.
It was just me for a long time. My team members joined me. So Dave joined me back in at the end of 2020. Well, mid 2022. Warren, I'm not great at maths, you can tell. And Warren joined me in March 2023. And yeah, so I've been with ES. Obviously, I initially joined with Gobo, but mostly with Electric Square since 2019. So I have been on my own for quite some time. I was on my own for quite some time, and especially doing that kind of big building of the teams and, you know, supporting the growth of the two studios, one which now is Lively and the other one which is Singapore, Electric Square Singapore. So yeah, a big part of the growth was me, and I feel like it was because of the trust and support of my directors that massively made it possible, if I'm honest, because they were there should I need their support. They were there to book interviews in, you know, they were there to support people wanting to step into the industry, and their general demeanor meant that I could really relax into my job because of the way that they are as directors, and they are fantastic, and they are down-to-earth people, real, transparent and honest. And that's one of, like, a lot of those are within our company values that allowed me to be like that with people, rather than like a weird salesy recruiter scary front that you sometimes sadly see still in this era. And in the games industry, I feel like the more you are yourself and you are transparent and you are honest, and you're not just like selling a fake dream that once people get to your studio, what you've told them isn't there and it's just a bad taste, then, you know, I think when you aren't doing those things and you really do believe in what you are saying and living it and showing people what they can have, then it only brings success. I couldn't have done this in a place that wasn't comfortable for me, or that didn't support me, or I didn't believe in. The industries before mine, you know, they have their place, but it wasn't something I was passionate about it to a point. Like when you're working in an industry that's not something of your chosen preference. I've always been a gamer, so, you know, moving into the games industry was something that was quite comfortable for me. I was familiar with it. The people resonated very, very much with me. And I just felt like it was a job where I get to make friends with cool people all day and then get them to chat with my nice directors and potentially work for us. I was like, this is just a win. Like, so I think the success comes from that, if I'm honest, because it is just a natural way of, you know, recruiting people rather than like this hard sell, fake dream that I'm selling. And people talk in this industry. It's way too small to be telling people they're going to get something and not give them what that is at the other end. So word of mouth is the most important thing, I would say, that I've come to, you know, see in the last 4 years. And referrals and, you know, friend referrals, and that's like the strongest thing as a recruiter. If someone knows someone at my company, to be able to say, "Oh, go and ask your friend," I think, you know, it speaks volumes. And I'm not scared to say that to anyone. If they've known someone who worked at our company or currently works at our company, I'm like, please speak to your friends, because I hope they can only support what I'm telling you.
When you have challenges in your professional life, what do you do to overcome them? Are there any strategies that you use?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on the challenge, whether it's just volume, whether it's a tricky role, whether it's logistical nightmare. It really depends on what the challenge is. I mean, I guess I just kind of remove myself from it and analyze it and see what I can do to improve the situation. It depends on, you know, if it is, we've got 50 open roles and it's a little bit busy, but someone's asked us to do a talk at a university, then, you know, we still want to try and facilitate that because we know it's important. And then we would, you know, evaluate our workload and like where there might be a gap in our calendar that we can facilitate that. So it really depends on the challenge. If it's a logistical problem, obviously we offer a lot of remote working. That might be a solution. If it's a visa problem, we work with an incredible external support for visas for the UK in particular. They might have a solution. So it really depends on the challenge for me. Sorry if that's a bit of a roundabout way of answering your question, because there's quite a few different challenges we kind of face.
Yeah, I'm thinking in, I guess, your recruitment career, like when you first, if I take that story you mentioned where you went from a team of 2 to a team of 1 of just Charlotte to do a lot of hiring. Obviously that ended up working out, but I was wondering, when that first happened, that must have felt a challenge. So, and any steps you took straight away, like, okay, let me potentially paint the scene here, like what is coming up?
Yeah, I guess looking at kind of workload, I just, you know, I was always honest with people about what I could actually do physically, prioritizing. So if I had 60 open roles and just me, I would make sure that we have a regular meeting, and on that regular meeting that everyone was aware of what each other had asked for. And I'd ask them for like their top 3, you know, like most important, so that I understood the priority. And I would obviously look for the others as well at the same time, but to make sure those burning roles were being focused on, I would always try and focus the studio on what they were also looking for. So what are your top 3 burning, maybe top 5 burning, depending on how busy we were. You know, when it was just me, it was, you know, I would try and say top 10, I think. But at least I had a lot better understanding of what the important roles were to be focusing on. So time management was a big one. And just being open with the directors and what I could physically manage in the time frame that I'd been given, which I'd sometimes surprise myself on. And, you know, there is an element of luck and chance that comes with recruitment. The right person meets you at the right time, the right person refers a friend at the right time, that sort of thing. So you might kind of actually beat your timescales, but always be realistic. I think if you're not realistic with what you're able to do, and you can say, hey, yeah, I can get 60 people hired in a week, you're just going to look silly. I think if you're honest and go, okay, I've got 2 hands and that's it. So we've got to look at this logistically, and let's look at the timeline. In co-development, it's even harder. Obviously, we can just have stuff drop in like a fortnight, not even that sometimes. You know, tomorrow they might tell me that we've got a project in and it's 100 people, and we have to navigate that and look at what we're going to do. So, you know, that kind of imminent, you know, rejig is something that I'm quite familiar with, where we have to reassess like priorities due to the nature of co-development as well. So yeah, just kind of assess, be honest, look at what you can actually physically do, and don't promise the moon, because it's just going to make you look silly if you can't provide.